What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports MLB Swing for the Fences show. I'm your host, Mangone. I'm here with Title. I'm not here with Hoop. We're here with G Risen, another guy in the Michigan area. He is, stepping up for Hoop while he is out there golfing, I believe. Title, I'll go over to you. We don't have Coors on this slate, so I don't know if they'll be too lost. Your Brewers are on the slate either, so we got to break this down, and it should be a fun little MLB slate. But how's it going over there after that Milwaukee Bucks loss yesterday?
Man, I mean, that was very hurtful. What was even more hurtful is obviously the Giannis injury. You can deal with the loss. I mean, the Hawks were outplaying them from the jump with Giannis in, but that injury, no one likes to see that. I haven't heard confirmation on it, but they think it's severe ACL injury. Very, very hurtful, very sad. But yeah, no Coors on the slate. But I had Coors on the early slate, still sweating the 4 games, and we get a nice 9-game slate today. Get to go on a nice show with G Risen. Watch him on Sundays. It'll be fun talking with him, talking some baseball. A lot of weather concerns that we have to watch. I mean, right now we're still over 3 hours out till lock, so we don't have any bold predictions, or I mean, we don't know too much what's going to go on with the weather, but it's going to be something to monitor. We'll be in Discord talking about it up until lock and waiting for news and stuff. But we got some good pitching options. We got good hitting options. It's a 9-game slate, so I'm excited to dive into it.
Yep, I'm excited to dive into it well, and I'm excited that G Risen's here. Not because I don't not want to see Hoop, right? I want to talk some FanDuel, right? Like I've been playing, some FanDuel, and I want to get his FanDuel takes because I like this FanDuel slate a bit. So, G Risen, how's it going over there? And are you excited for this FanDuel slate as well?
Yeah, looks like a good slate. I'll tell you what, I'm a little chapped after yesterday, though, when they postponed that Cleveland game. That kind of still's got me a little upset, but I thought for sure, and I was watching some of the weather. Everybody said, it's not going to rain, blah, blah, blah. And then they pulled a Washington Nationals scenario on us and postponed the game without even a few raindrops. But whatever. Best thing is we get to reset today, look at today's slate, look at it. What we got, like 10 games on FanDuel, and looks like more than half of them got some weather concerns. So looks like if you're going to play the slate today, you might have to stay close to that computer before lock. The good thing is, actually, what do we got? 9 games. The good thing is most of the games start at 7-ish. So, we'll know most of that information up at the start. But yeah, excited to talk about this with you guys. I know I haven't done a show with either two of you in a while. So let's dive in. Should be fun.
Yep, we'll definitely dive in. Before we dive in and do that, guys, please hit that like, hit that subscribe on the video. It helps us out a ton. We love having you guys here. Also, want to talk about, all the content that we have over at Run Pure Sports. We got showdowns for NBA, which that'll be discussed on the premium show with BigT, JSU. Don't miss out on that. We got the PGA content, right? We have a show tonight, so don't miss out on that. We even got NFL best ball videos here on our, on our YouTube channel. So we got everything. We got all the sports you need. We got tennis right now. I saw a nice little tennis win before I hopped on here. We got tennis content for you. There's some big prize pools this week. So with all the sports going on, you do not want to miss out on everything that we have over at runpuresports.com. So check all that out, and let's kind of start diving in and talk about this slate. Let's go over to you, Title, first. Pitching at the top, Aaron Nola is there, and he seems like he is like the ace on the slate, right? Gets the Miami Marlins. The pitching weather, though, it is definitely a good hitting environment. Does that scare you off of a guy like Aaron Nola on this slate, or is he just going to be a plug and play at the top?
Yeah, in cash games on DraftKings, he is my favorite. He's the SP1. I'm just going to plug him in. FanDuel, I'm going to plug him in as well, but I'll let G Risen talk about FanDuel more. 10.2K. I mean, he's not even the most expensive pitcher. We have Chris Bassett up there at 10.5K, who's also in a good matchup against Texas. But I mean, I like the upside for Nola a lot more. He has more strikeout upside, over 2 strikeouts. His K prop's 2 strikeouts higher than Bassett's is. Yeah, I mean, I like picking on the Marlins a bit. The weather, yeah, it is better hitting weather, like you mentioned, but it's one of the few games that it looks like that we don't have to worry about possible rain. I mean, there's some possible pop-ups maybe, but it seems like that's one of the safer games for pitching. So he's going to be my SP1 on both sites. And then, like I mentioned, Bassett at 10.5K. If you want to go the double spend up at pitcher, he is the safest against Texas. He gets the best matchup. But 10.5K for Chris Bassett is just not something I'm very intrigued about. Cash games, I might do that. We do have some salary for hitters. But for tournaments, I like looking at someone like, Shohei Ohtani at 8.7K is a big question on this slate. He's not popping in projections too much, but he gets this Yankees team that only has 2 left-handers in the lineup, and he has a crazy 43% strikeout rate against righties this year. He's been hitting the ball out of this world. He's been pitching very good recently. He has the K upside. In tournaments, he's my favorite SP2 for tournaments at 8.7K with that strikeout matchup. I know the Yankees are tough. They do have some power in that lineup, but they haven't been very good. A right-handed lineup, I like going to Ohtani. So Ohtani's my favorite SP2 in tournaments. In cash games, it's a little too risky for me. The Yankees still do have a 5.3 implied total, which you don't usually like touching pitchers against a total like that. But he's my SP2 in cash games. If you want to go a little lower than Bassett at 10.5K, we have Luis Garcia at 9.9K against Baltimore, and then Joe Musgrove at 9.2K. There looks to be some weather concerns in Cincinnati. Also, if they play, it's good hitting weather. So Musgrove falls down the list for me. I'd rather go to Luis Garcia, but I think I'd rather find the 600 for Bassett than I would Luis Garcia. So I rank him Aaron Nola 1 for sure, my SP1. Chris Bassett's 2 for cash games. Because of the salary, because of the safety, because of the salary in tournaments, I'm not going to go all the way up. I'd rather go to the discount for Ohtani at 8.7K and chase the upside. And then Luis Garcia, I have ranked 3 at 9.9K. I'd rather find the money for Bassett in cash games, but Garcia has a higher strikeout prop and a little more upside, I think, against this Baltimore lineup. So that's kind of how I rank pitching. There's one guy below that I'll mention later, but I'll let you rise and talk about it first. There's a lot of options at pitching, though, and hitting as we get to. It's a good slate for sure.
No, yeah, you brought up great points. I do think Nola becomes the chalk. I do think a guy like Bassett is a really good pivot play. And then I do want to mention with Luis Garcia, Jose Urquidy, he got hurt yesterday, right? So that Astros bullpen got a little work. So you can make an argument that obviously things are going great for Garcia, he's going to keep going and mow them all down, but they need extra innings from him today, right? They might just bring him out there and he might have a bigger pitch count than normal, right? So that's worth mentioning at that 9.9K price tag. I do get what you're saying about Ohtani. I'm a little more worried about him being in that ballpark. And I get it. He has upside, right? But that park and the Yankees have been hitting a little better. That is definitely something that I get concerned about, but we know how he is. He's a real boom bust kind of guy. At least that's what
tournaments only for sure. You brought up really good point. I mean, that's why he's not popping in projections. I mean, the weather, the ballpark, the Yankees have power, all that. Just, we do know that his strikeout upside, he has the second highest strikeout prop on this slate, right next to Nola, actually, at 7.5. So I totally agree with you. Cash games, you definitely don't play him. It's boom or bust. You couldn't set it any better.
Title, I'll give out a free bet that I put on the bet side today. I put an under on Ohtani at 7.5 at -134, which I thought was really good because I didn't like his projection was low. And I think there's a lot of things going against him. Do you like that bet or not?
I don't know. It's a little risky for me. If he does well, he's going to strike out double digits. I mean, 43% strikeout rate against righties this year. And I mean, the Yankees have 2 lefties, Odor and Gardner at the bottom of the order. And we know what Odor strikes out a lot. So it's all righties. I don't know. I'm interested to hear what G Ryzen says too. FanDuel's a little different. DK is just 8.7K compared to Bassett at like 10.5 or Garcia at 9.9. The savings do go a little ways. So I don't love the bet. I don't hate the bet, but hey, it makes sense. I mean, he could absolutely get shelled. It's the Yankees in a good park. So I hear you.
We'll go over to G Ryzen. Talk to us about some of these FanDuel pitchers, right? Nola is at 11K, Luis Garcia 10.5. Bassett's a nice little savings at 9.8, right? Depends what that 1.2K does for you, but it is FanDuel. You can kind of get whatever you want. It feels like at times, G Ryzen. Even Dylan Cease, you get him at 8.2K, right? That seems like a really good price tag over on FanDuel. A lot of different guys that you can play G Ryzen, but break it down for me. How are you handling it on FanDuel?
Yeah, actually, Nola, I think, is going to be pretty chalky. Nola and Garcia, I believe. Pricing's a little different, obviously. Nola's 11K, with Garcia being 10.5. And like you mentioned, it's pretty easy to get the bat you want. So I think those two are going to garner most of the ownership, I believe. So in tournaments, I think, as you mentioned, Bassett's a great pivot in Texas, or actually in Oakland against Texas. I do like that. We're talking about Ohtani. It's just hard to even argue with anything with this guy lately. I mean, he's hitting every ball out of the yard. He's been pitching really well recently. Got up over 100 pitches last time, which is good to see if that's something you want to roster. I think Ohtani is a good pivot. off of the two top guys. My concern is, I just think the whole New York, being in New York, now pitching, he's hit a few homers a few days. I just think maybe the mindset, I'm just not a fan at this point. My gut's telling me he might get shelled, boom or bust, as you guys said. So, I mean, he could give up 3 homers and he could still strike out 9 guys. But yeah, I'm a little worried about Ohtani, but I think right now for me, I think Nola is probably going to be my top pitcher. And then I'm probably going to have some Bassett as well.
Yep, Nola versus Bassett is definitely a debate I'm going to have for sure over on FanDuel. Again, that price difference, it depends what it does for you as you build out your lineups. It's worth mentioning the Mets are like, they're not great, right? At least that team is not been what you'd expect. And Max Fried has been a little bit better. Could you play him as a cheap guy? Like, G-Rising, you're someone, and I think I'm kind of similar. I never really pay down at some of these pitchers. Is it a day on a site like a FanDuel to pay down at a pitcher, or on DraftKings, right? Are there any cheaper guys that you're looking at here, G-Rising?
Well, I mean, you look at Max Fried, he's been, mid 90s, 98, 94, 92 pitches. He's got 2 wins. He's been over 6 innings, got you a quality start each time. My concern with Fried is really the strikeouts aren't there. For a tournament type play, if I was looking for maybe an SP2 on DK, that might be something I'd consider. But, for a tournament, I'm going to look for a guy that generally is, I think is going to be 1 or 2 in strikeouts on the slate. And I don't even believe Max is even close to that. So, yeah, he's a no for me. But I could see I could see why you'd want to play him. They're on this slate. I mean, the bats. I mean, if you wanted to go Houston or Toronto or somebody like that, I mean, you're going to have to pay down at pitcher. So, some of those guys are going to be in play. I mean, last night we saw some low price guys on FanDuel. Velasquez had like 60 some points. Martinez did well. So, the guys who stacked up Ohtani, Schwarber, and paid up for all these bats were the ones in the green last night. So, that's something to think about too.
Yep, definitely agree with you there. We'll go back to you, Title. You were talking about a cheap pitcher, right? There was someone that you were going to mention. Did G-Rising mention him? Who's the guy that you wanted to mention that was a cheap option?
Yeah, you might not like it it's against your White Sox, but if I have to go all the way down, it's Bailey Ober at 5.7K. I mean, if DC was on the show, I know he'd be talking about Bailey Ober. He's talked him up a couple weeks ago. He thinks he's a very good real life pitcher, and I think he's a pretty good real life pitcher too. Not the best matchup against the White Sox. Bailey Ober is really good against righties. He strikes out like a 27% clip. Against lefties, he's not as good, and the White Sox are going to roll out some lefties, which is a little concerning, but he's 5.7K on FanDuel. He's 6.3K or 5.7K on DraftKings, 6.3K on FanDuel. FanDuel, I probably won't get there because the quality start's very important. And on DraftKings, I mean, he's only made it 4 innings every start except one where he made it 5 innings. So the pitch count's a concern. How deep he goes into the game's a concern, but he's 5.7K with strikeout upside. And we're talking about getting some of the Houston bats or Toronto bats. There's plenty of bats to spend up on this slate. I'm fine pairing like a 10.2 Nola and a 5.7K Bailey Ober, and then paying up for bats that way and hoping he gets you a 15 or something. So he's the one that stands out for me in the cheap range. He's the only cheap guy I'm looking at. And yeah, that's how I'm going to go about it. I don't love picking on the White Sox, but he's talented. He's too cheap for the matchup, and there are bats that you can pay for. So Bailey Ober is my cheap guy.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a watered down lineup now, right? I mean, they have been really, really hurt. I mean, they just keep getting injury after injury. Yeah. So not the worst idea to go to him. G-Rising, over on DraftKings, any interest in him as a cheap SP?
For DraftKings, I mean, I think about it, but, another guy I might look at too is Kobe Allard, pitching for Texas against Oakland. I don't mind him as a lefty. I mean, you're in Oakland, it's a good park for a pitcher, obviously, as we've heard our Big T scream. He never likes to play any teams in Oakland, in the past. But I don't mind Kobe Allard either, but I'm not going to, like I said, I'm probably not going to go there. I think the lowest I may even consider going maybe Dylan Cease. But, today we got so many landmines with weather that we're going to have to keep and pay attention to. So I'm going to be damn sure that there's probably not going to be any delays or any kind of thing like that that's going to affect my pitcher. So gonna have to keep my ear to the ground a little more. We got 2.5, 3 hours before lock. But yeah, I think, like I said, Bassett, Nola, Garcia. Would have a little interest in Musgrove, but with the weather and everything and being in Cincinnati, I can't do it. I wouldn't have the stomach to do that.
You're right. And let's talk about this. So yesterday, I didn't expect the Cleveland weather to like sneak up on us as much as it did, right? Even San Diego, like we had Big T live at the house, right, saying it is just raining on me. But what is the weather you're really watching for today? Because it's good to maybe go through like a weather breakdown, especially after yesterday. What are you watching for right now so far?
Well, definitely that Cincinnati game is one that we're going to have to watch with down there. I think there's what they're saying. There's some rain that may come in a little bit early. If they get a lot of rain, it could be some trouble. You got Kansas City and Boston could be a little bit of trouble. I like that. I don't like that one. I think that one could be pretty risky. Just kind of looking too. I mean, there's a chance of delay possibly at Yankee Stadium. There's a little bit of chance of some rain and the delay in the middle, the late innings in that Philly game with Nola. So yeah, I just generally, I think sometimes when there's weather, like yesterday with the Indians, I of course we're all upset when that happens, but I started strolling through some of the ownership percentages, knowing that some people actually may have had 2 minutes or a minute to hear that game was going to be delayed before lock, and still like Jose Ramirez was 20% owned in that FanDuel queue, and a lot of these guys were still in the teens, so I'm sure some guys peeled off there, but the Indians still had some ownership. It's not like there's nothing worse when you get a game PPD and all your guys are less than 5% and knowing that you were a dummy. If there's 20-30% of people, usually there's been some bad information going around, and from the looks of things, it sounded like that Tiger, that was the case yesterday. But yeah, lots of weather we got to pay attention to. There's Twitter's a beautiful thing. I like to watch, pay attention to a lot of these guys, beat writers and stuff like that, because, some of them may be down there on the field, and, sometimes you'll hear these guys are warming up or a certain pitcher's warming up before the game, and, they're not going to stretch out their pitcher if they don't think they're going to start on time. So just a lot of little clues like that or something you can pick up on. And, too, like that MLB app, a lot of times they'll say warm up. A lot of times they won't even say that if they think it's going to be delayed. But yesterday it was a trick. They said they were on the field warming up, and all of a sudden, a minute before, boom, delay. I was just like, come on. So, but yeah, lots of weather today. I think this is the most weather we've had all year so far.
All right, Title, do you have any breakdowns on the weather so far? And I want to ask about one more pitcher. I don't know if anyone mentioned him, but what do you think of Steven Matz? Because we just saw Robbie Ray absolutely destroy Seattle, right? And Seattle, I'm not scared of them. And I think that if you look at like you look at Robbie Ray, right? He's one of those guys that can be very boom bust, and so can Steven Matz. There are some similarities there. So what do you think of a guy like Steven Matz here?
Yeah, he's 8.1K. So he falls in that range where I'm either going all the way up to the Bassets, to the Garcias, to the Nolas. Or I'm just going to go all the way down to Bailey Ober and get the bats there. So he falls in that dead range kind of. If G Risen has an opinion, I'll let him talk about it more, but I'm not going to do it. I always narrow down my pitching pool, try and get it to like 5 or less. So that's what I do today. As far as the weather, I mean, almost every game has a little bit of concerns. It looks like the biggest concerns are Boston, Kansas City, the Padres, Cincinnati, and then Cleveland, Detroit is always, I mean, who knows what they've been doing. So that's a concern as well. Those are the 3 I'm mainly looking out for. We'll be in Discord if something pops up, because I mean, like, you don't want to take a risk on a pitcher that might have a 3rd, 4th inning delay. And then, I mean, it just you don't get the win. You don't get the quality start on FanDuel and all that. So we'll be in Discord monitoring it, but I think those are the 3 games that are most concerning.
All right. We got someone in the chat. Tony A. He says, who's trolling with those dislikes? So you know how we fix that? We just get those likes up, right? We got to outratio those. Very hurtful. So let's get those moving for the people.
What is it? What is it? Me? What's going on here? What? I'm not as good as Hoop, or what do we got here? I'm not Big T. What do you guys want? Like, come on.
No clue what it is. I mean, maybe they want the clown suit, right? The clown hat. I'm not sure if that's what the people
clown hair out. What do we got going?
Yeah, but that was pretty funny on that show. If you missed that, that was on a Sunday morning show where G Ryzen had the nice blue clown hair going on. That was really funny. I'll go over to you, G Ryzen. Talk to me about Steven Matz real quick, because that's the one guy I want to touch upon, I guess. And then I guess give me your final pitching breakdown here.
You know, I didn't really. I looked a little bit at Steven Matz. I mean, he's going to have good win equity. Justice Sheffield sucks, so obviously he's got huge win equity. I mean, if you can get a quality start on him, which is probably 50-50, but you know, if he's got to win, they'll probably give him a little bit more of a leash. You know, he's up and down with his Ks. It looks like it's like you look at his game log, it's like every other game: 8 Ks, 3 Ks, 10 Ks, 4 Ks, 9 Ks. You know, he's gone. I think his last start, he was at 111 pitches, which is pretty high. The time before he went 100, the few starts before he went 112. The next start, he ended up only going 69 pitches. So that's a little concerning that he went over 111. That's the second highest pitch count. I mean, I'm not going to say that. It's just something I look at. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. I couldn't argue with it if you're going to pay down for a pitcher. You know, once you get down in that range, you know, in my opinion, it's really a crapshoot anyway. So, but the win equity is, I mean, I think they're probably got to be one of the highest favorites on the board. So, yeah, if you can squeeze out a quality start, I mean, you're looking at a mid-30s, and for a guy at that price, you can't argue that.
All right, Titletown, I'll go over to you. Give me your pitching rankings. For me, it's Aaron Nola at the top, no doubt. He's going to be the guy that I go to. How about you? Is he number one for you, and what's the rest of the guys for us here?
Yeah, just the last point, a match too. He only has a 4.5K prop, and at that elevated price tag, that's why he falls in the dead range. I don't love his upside as much, but he does have the win equity. As far as my pitching rankings, Aaron Nola's SP1 for sure. I'm going to say Chris Bassett as 2 because of the safety he gives me. And there are some cheap bats that we can do it. Luis Garcia 3, and then Bailey Ober 4 at 5.7K. Point per dollar, Bailey Ober might be first or second best on the slate though. But because of because we always have value at hitting and stuff, at Bassett gets you 22 and Ober gets you 14, 15. I mean, it depends on hitting goes, but it's going to be Nola 1, Bassett 2, Garcia 3, and then Bailey Ober 4.
All right, guys, again, hit the like, hit the subscribe, helps out a ton. And we got a nice little PGA show tonight, right? So you can get notified when we go live, 8:30 tonight. We got people talking in our Discord chat right now about hoop in the Pro-Am. So he'll, I'm sure, touch upon that. He'll be live with Snyder and AP. They'll be breaking down all of the PGA stuff for the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Titletown, what were you going to say?
Did you see the update on Giannis? Very, very good news. He has no structural damage to the knee. Timetable to return is unclear, but the damage is not there. So that is a very, very good sign.
That's good to hear. Let's just keep him out a little longer, right? You know, no need to rush back.
He might be. Yeah. I mean, as long as, the thing is that the worst, I know we're talking basketball a little, but if Giannis was out for an extended period of time, like he does have a lot of improvements to his game he needs to work on in the summer. And if that kept him off his feet for shooting and all that, it would just hurt his career and push it back farther. So even if they can't get it done this year, which would be very sad, at least that's good news for his career.
That's good for sure. Title is happy about his Bucks, so all is good, at least for now. 2-2 series, we'll see how it shakes up. Should be fun. Both the NBA games will go to Game 6 and Game 7, but we're here to talk some baseball. G Ryzen is bored to death of the basketball. He wants to get onto the baseball, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't like basketball, I'll be honest.
Yeah, and that's fair. No
worries. I love college basketball, but the pros, you know what, man? I was just watching. I watched Last Dance again the other day. I binge watched it, and you know what? That was the good times of basketball for me. All them guys hated each other. You went down the lane, you were getting knocked on your ass. You look at these scores nowadays; they're like all-star games. Every buck 20. You were lucky to score 80 back in the day. So, yeah, LeBron got me. I'm not a fan of LeBron. Jordan got me to watch basketball, and LeBron got me to stop watching basketball. So. We'll
leave it at that. He doesn't like. There's a lot of people.
G Ryzen he's yelling at the clouds right now. Okay, like the
yeah, I get it. All you millennials love you some LeBron James, but man, he is just.
Oh gosh. Well, that's a conversation everyone loves to talk about, but we'll keep moving to baseball.
It's a great sports debate. It's so easy. You want to get some people fired up in a bar? Just start talking about that shit, man.
That is the number one sports debate to get people riled up, I will say.
Go to G Risen's Twitter. He'll have a whole conversation with you on Twitter about LeBron.
Yeah. Glock almost said, "Don't be a boomer, G Risen." I'm sure the comments are coming now here.
Oh, they're coming. They'll come.
Yeah, it's gonna be good in the chat. But listen,
man, I'm 49. I don't care what it. I don't give two shits. When you get to my age, you don't give two shits anymore what people say or think. So it is what it is.
All right. Well, tell us who the catchers are, G Risen, right? Because it is not a great catching slate, right? I mean, sure, there's some guys you can play. Like you can make a case for Salvador Perez against the lefty at the top, but I mean, it's an expensive price tag, right? 5.2K. I feel like I want to punt with some other options. How about you?
Yeah, there's a few punts. I mean, you could look at. You could look at Yasmani Grandal. I mean, if you wanted to go all the way down, you could go for Jason Castro, that 9-hole, and have a wraparound stack with Houston. Jason Castro has done me pretty well over the years, so I don't mind him at all. But you're right. There really isn't too much here that is jumping out at me. You got James McCann against a lefty. If you want to go there, you could look at something like that. I can't say, to be true, I'm not even really a fan of Salvador Perez, and I'm glad on FanDuel I don't have to play a catcher. Some days I do like to play him. I'm not going to play Gary Sanchez, even though he's been hot as can be. You know what? If he will be definitely low owned. We've seen Ohtani give up some homers. It's going to be hot there. He's up in the 3-hole. I mean, that'd be a good one-off guy. I don't see anything, I'm probably going to make my lineup. But if you do look at them stats, Salvador Perez is, just his recency and everything else. I mean, he looks pretty good. Looks like probably the best matchup. But if I'm going Astros, I'd probably think about Castro.
All right, and it's worth mentioning right on FanDuel, you can get catchers like lower owned. G Risen, that's something I always like to talk about. He's, Salvador Perez is 3.3K. Where like in reality, like he should technically, if you were kind of equating it to the DraftKings pricing, he should be like 4K. So it does feel like you're kind of getting a bit of a discount on a guy like Salvador Perez right now. G Risen, is that something you kind of agree on?
I do agree on that. Yesterday I think when I looked at because I think Sanchez hit a homer early yesterday, and I was looking at his ownership, and I was actually kind of stunned it was so low. Definitely catchers are generally, one of the better punt type. I won't say maybe a punt, but like tournament type plays. Like a play like Big T likes to make that nobody else is going to be on. You can get some catchers in some pretty good spots at times. I can't say today, really stands out. But yeah, generally you definitely get catchers pretty low.
A good example I had once was Sean Murphy, right? He was against the lefty and he was 2K on FanDuel, right? And then on DK's 4-4, right? That's just like a crazy misprice. It's just because people don't want to play him and he wasn't owned in an A stack and then he hit a bomb for me. So that's stuff that you can take advantage of at times. Title, I'll go over to you. Before I do though, like an 888 in the chat, he says, and that's when G Risen wasn't invited back on the show again. So thought that was a pretty funny comment there. Don't think that'll be the case, but Title will go over to you. Talk to me about the catcher position in cash games. Are we punting? Are we paying up? What's the move?
Those comments do have me dying, but talking catcher, I think there's two guys that really stand out and they're two different price ranges. JT Real Muto at 4.3K. That's just underpriced. G Rise has probably seen him and laughing. 4.3K is just
people in the chat.
4.3K is just underpriced for JT Real Muto. 5.1 implied total. Good hitter right in the 3-hole in the middle of the lineup. So he's my favorite if I'm going up. And then if I'm going down, Luis Torrens is only 2.3K against Steven Matz. He's in the 5-hole, but I played him yesterday. He didn't do too well, but he's a good hitter. He's way too cheap, and he's in the middle of the order. And we're talking about other bats we'll get to that we do want to spend up for on this slate. If you want to spend up at double pitcher, 2.3K for Torrens is way too cheap. So I'm only going to mention those two. I think they're clearly the best two plays. Otherwise, you can always, for catcher, throw whatever stack you're doing, throw the catcher in as part of your stack.
All right, let's move it on over and go talk about the first baseman. And of course, we got Vlad Guerrero Jr., who has been crushing righties, but I'll still play him against a lefty, right? At that 5.9K price tag. definitely a good guy to spend up on this slate. I do really like Jared Walsh at 4.4. He is definitely someone against Herman. He could hit one out, and I think that price tag feels a little cheap. G Rising, that's on DraftKings, but I'll go over to you because I'm FanDuel. If you're not playing those catchers, you got to be playing a first baseman at least. So who are the guys you're looking at the first base position?
Yeah, tough to argue with Vladdy. I mean, Toronto especially hitting. I mean, his price tag's high, obviously 4,700. But Jake Cronenworth, if that weather is good, I really like him. That's Cincinnati pitcher. He's pretty much a fly ball pitcher, so I do like that. I mean, if you like Houston, Gurriel's reasonably priced, 3,200 against Baltimore. Obviously, that's a decent play. You mentioned Jared Walsh, so I really like Walsh as well. So he's a guy I definitely look at. And then another guy, if you want to go against Ohtani for chasing a home run, I think Luke Voit has an opportunity, could potentially get one on him. You probably get Luke Voit pretty low owned. But I'll tell you though, for me, I think, you got to probably stick with the stacks you like. If you want to stack San Diego, which is somebody I'm going to keep my eye on tonight. I do like San Diego. And I do like Houston. So Gurriel and Cronenworth for me are probably at the top.
All right, here's another question about that first base position. I believe he's in the lineup. I have so many tabs up, I can't figure out which one. But what would you play to make your Padres stack and trend? Would you play like an Eric Hosmer, or is it just you put maybe Cronenworth at like first base instead? And that way you don't put him at second, and that makes your Padres stack a little bit different. And then you technically have to play 2 second basemen, G-Rise. Is that a good approach? Which one would you rather go with if you were forcing in one of those first basemen on the Padres?
Well, second base today is interesting. Generally, I don't like to pay up at second base. So, Cronenworth's a guy I would like to throw in at second base, like obviously most others would do. But yeah, I mean, that's obviously a way to get different. A lot of times when I build my stacks, what I like to do is try to maybe find some, low price guys that maybe are higher up in the lineup. The other day we mentioned, Sheets. I think he had 19.2 points. Somebody was 2K. He was at first. So sometimes I might throw in a guy like that. It might bump me up to a bigger bat somewhere else, kind of give me some salary savings. So a lot of times second base is a place I like to kind of pay down. But today you do have some pretty strong options at second if you want to pay up for Altuve. Obviously Kiki in the one hole is interesting, but yeah, I do really like Cronenworth though, but I'd probably play him at second though, to be truthful, because I think if I stack it up another way and I had, Houston or somebody like that, I think I'd end up probably having somebody else at first.
All right, we'll go over to you, Title. Cash games, how are you handling it? I mean, I like these lefties in this short ballpark. Jared Walsh, 4.4K. Is he the guy that you're going to be getting in there in your cash games, or are you going to some other bats?
Yeah, I like Jared Walsh a lot of 4.4K. He's just too cheap for the power. So that's right in the mid tier in tournaments, or if you are going to go all the way down to Ober and cash games, which I wouldn't do today. I think it's more tournaments, but if you have the money for Vlad, I don't see how you don't play him. 5.9K. Against a bad lefty in Sheffield. Toronto should have their way today, put up a lot of runs, and Vlad's going to be right in the middle of it. So if I can get him, I like him a lot. 5.9K, Walsh 4.4K. Then if I'm going down to cheaper range, Hunter Dozier at 3K. He's in the 5 hole against Perez. I do like some of these Royals. Hunter Dozier has some power. 3K is just way too cheap. You can also go Carlos Santana. I think he'll be lower owned than Hunter Dozier because he is 4.3K. And he's right next to Walsh, where people are just going to go and gravitate to. We do have to watch weather a little bit in this game, but Carlos Santana, 4.3K in the 3 hole. I like him as well. Going to keep my player pool short, or try to, for most of these positions. So there's 4 guys: Vlad up top, Jared Walsh in the mid tier, Hunter Dozier down below, and then Carlos Santana is the pivot.
Yeah, and one more Santana mentioned. He's in the lineup, right, to make your Red Sox stack unique. I mean, Danny Santana, right? I wouldn't ignore him completely. He's a guy that could be at the total bottom at the 9 hole and could be a low-owned guy and have a nice little game. And if first base busts, that could give you a little bit of a difference to help you, differentiate yourself in tournaments. But Let's move on over. Let's go to second base, and I'll go over to you, G Ryzen. And against the lefty, Kike Hernandez, it's something that, lefty masher. He's one of those guys that he's on like the starting, 9, right? If you put a team out for the lefty mashers, he's on it. 4.0K. Are you paying for him on FanDuel and DraftKings?
Yeah, I do like Kike, but obviously, like we said, everywhere there's some weather. But I'm just going to talk as if, because we're not sure really any of the games, but. Yeah, Kike is a guy I always like to play. He's in the leadoff spot against KC at home. I mean, good hitters park. You can't really argue. I don't mind Ozzy Albies either. I don't mind him in the 3-hole. And then for our boy Steve Boynton, you could look at Ty France a little bit against Toronto if you want to look at him. But yeah, I do like Kike today. I'm going to have to look and see how this Boston game is going to shake out. That's one of the more scarier games. But Jose Altuve, if you want to pay down a little bit at pitcher, we'll see how that looks. Generally, that's probably not going to be one of my top spend ups today. But yeah, there's quite a few options, but yeah, I think Kike and Jose for me at this point. You mentioned the Royals. Whit Merrifield's been hitting the ball pretty well recently too. So I don't mind that at all. But other than that, I mean, there's a lot of guys I normally like to play at second seem to have, I like to play Jazz. I don't like that matchup, obviously, against Nola. I like to play Polanco. I'm just not a fan against Cease. So a few of the guys I like to play got some tougher matchups, but, Simeon's only 3,300. We'll have to see where he falls in line. I'll probably be batting leadoff, but, he's probably going to be pretty popular. I'm going to assume he'll probably be the most popular. But Kike is definitely in a great position.
All right, Title, are you paying up for Altuve? And also the chat wants to know, are you going to a NASCAR race? You don't strike me as a NASCAR guy. I mean, I don't think you've gone to many races, but maybe I'm wrong. So the people want to know if you're going to a NASCAR race.
I have never been to a NASCAR race. I play some NASCAR DFS, but I definitely am not going to a NASCAR race.
You guys are missing out, man. In my early years, we went to a church and bought a school bus, and we tore it apart, took all the seats out, and we made it a big party bus, and we welded a huge deck on the top, and we used to pull into the MIS in the middle of the NASCAR track and drink ourselves to death. So,
how many Modelos?
Oh, we used to have it where you try to drink 100 beers from Friday to Sunday. So, yeah, it was a little rough, but you know what? You just, you got to man up in the morning and get back on it. But I'm too old now, man. That shit, you guys saw me the day after I pounded them like crazy at Big T's, man. That was a rough day of fishing the next day, I'll tell you.
Yeah, that is for sure.
I've been to the NASCAR races, G-Rise, and they are fun. They're better than you think.
Yeah, they are fun. They're more fun than you think. It's like a huge party in the inside, but I will say in the last like 15, 20 years, they gotten a little tighter with like family sections and crap like that, man. It was brutal. I've seen some shit I can't even talk about on this air there at them NASCAR races that are just, it's good times, man. Good times.
All right, Title. So no NASCAR race for you, but we need the second base play. So hit us with those. What do you got?
Yeah, if you're going all the way up, I think I like Marcus Semien over Altuve today. They're really close, but I do lean Toronto a little bit over the Astros. I like the righty-lefty matchup against Sheffield, where I'd rather pick on lefties against Harvey, but Altuve is definitely a fine play. But I don't think I'm going to be spending up at this position, really. Kike Hernandez definitely stands out at 4K against Minor. Kike's just absolutely been smashing the baseball. Good hitters park. It's warm weather, gets the lefty. I mean, he can pretty much be in a better spot. He'll be very, very high owned because of it, but cash games, I think you play him and move on. If you're not going there are a couple other cheap options as well. Gene Segura is only 3.4K in the 2-hole. The Philly bats, I like them a little bit. They're kind of cheap. Gene Segura, 3.4K. That's a very good price tag. Then we have some punts. If you want to go all the way down, we have this Aljo Lopez guy. He's 2K min price for Cincinnati in the 5-hole against Musgrove if you want a full punt. But you also, we don't have the Angels lineup yet, but Luis Rengifo, he's still 2.1K. If he's in the 1-hole or the 6-hole and you want to full punt it, I know he's not a very good hitter, but it'll open up other stuff. But Kike Hernandez and Gene Segura are my 2 favorite plays for sure.
Well, let's be real, Title. Do we ever have the Angels lineup? I mean, it's just the worst. we never get it. So
yeah.
Take some time. Even on the East Coast game, it takes forever to get that lineup, but we'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen.
He's messing with you, Mangone. That man messing with you.
The manager or titles messing?
Yeah, the manager. He's messing with you. That's why you don't put that lineup out. He says, I'm just going to piss off Mangone.
He's trying to hold his advantage, right, against the other team. In 162 baseball games, he's like the Titletown of MLB coaches. He's really grinding that edge out. I mean, super hard every single day, holding that lineup on the people title.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't really know what to say to that, but we should get it before. I mean, we'll get it sometime soon.
Don't give Joe Madden too much credit. Let's go over to third base though. At the top, Manny Machado. That is my guy today, I think, G-Rise. I like the Padres. Liked them yesterday. I held strong. I got rewarded for it. I'm hoping I can play them again today. What are you doing with Manny Machado here and the Padres?
Yeah, I like the Padres too yesterday. They were one of my top 3 stacks. They helped me out too. It was like I had some Indians, obviously, if you were following me yesterday, and we know what happened there, but Padres helped me out a little bit and get a little bit of money back. I didn't go totally broke yesterday, but Machado is definitely interesting. Devers too. I mean, he's been hitting, even though it is, same-handed matchup, but I don't mind that at all. Some other guys that I might be interested in. Let me see here. I'm thinking about, title mentioned Hunter Dozier. You can get him on the lower end. He's third base, batting in the 5-hole. I don't mind him at all, but third base isn't as strong as normally, but Machado definitely stands out at the top, and I think he's probably going to be the most popular guy today.
Yep, I'd agree with you there. Title, do you agree? Do you think he's going to be the most popular? We talked about the Angels. I think Anthony Rendon could be in play in that Yankee Stadium with it being a hot ballpark. What are you doing at third base, Title?
Yeah, you just listed my favorite two for sure. Machado at 5.1K feels underpriced. The Padres are in a very good spot. Anthony Rendon's only 4.2K. We like the Angels today, so he's my second favorite. You get a nice $900 price discount from Manny. So yeah, Manny's not a complete lock or anything. That salary does go a long way. For a tournament guy, if you want to get a little off the board, we haven't talked about the Braves too much. They have a 5 implied total. Most of their good pieces are expensive, but Austin Riley's only 3.9K against the lefties. So I think that's, we know he has a lot of power, a good 5.1 total against David Peterson. I don't think he gets very owned at all. So he's my tournament pivot at 3.9K, but Machado and Anthony Rendon, definitely the two best plays at the position.
All right. Another guy who's the best play at the position. Listen, G Rising, is it just Fernando Tatis and move on? I mean, he is just the man, gets that short ballpark. But of course, there are tons of guys you can always play at shortstop. It's a great hitting position, but Tatis is just so good. Are you just plug and playing him and moving on?
He's obviously one of the most expensive guys on the slate. I wish without salary that would be easy to do, but you can on FanDuel, you can move Semien over to short, which is, as we already talked about, he's only 3,300, or you can play his teammate Bo Bichette, who's been actually smashing the shit out of the baseball lately. I do like him. Obviously you got Correa in Baltimore. He's been hitting really well. I mean, there's a lot of options here at short. I can't say Tatis is a lock for me, but that's going to be, you might get Correa pretty low owned or Bichette, just because you can get Tatis for 500 or 600 more. People are going to be able to figure out a way to get up to that. But you can even throw Bogarts in the mix too. But Bichette, Tatis, Correa, they're all up there for me. Those guys are all interesting. And then too, I don't mind Tim Anderson leading off for the White Sox either. So I like to play him. Might be a decent one-off. He is leading off, obviously. But, Tatis, Correa, Bichette, those would be the top guys for me.
Yeah, you brought up good points, Shiraz. And like Correa, he's not going to probably own that much at shortstop if obviously weather holds and everything. But these Astros, they're really good plays today. And because they busted recently, I think that's why people are off it. But this is Matt Harvey. I mean, Matt Harvey sucks, right? Are you expecting lower ownership on the Astros today than normal, G Rising?
I think we may get lower ownership than we should against Matt Harvey, actually. So Harvey, you just look at the slate. I think everybody's instinct would be stack against him. It's obviously Houston. So bet one of the better hitting teams. I mean, you got to expect them to put up some runs. So, I'm not sure yet. I think really it might depend on the type of contest you're in. I think some of the higher stakes stuff you might see, the Tatises, and you might get Correa a little cheaper. But I think some of the lower stakes Correa might garner higher ownership because people are gonna just want to full out stack against Harvey.
All right, Title. What's your thoughts on the Astros today, right? Because they are a team that they could be pretty chalky. So talk about that point, right? What to do with the Astros against Matt Harvey? Because I do kind of agree with a lot of stuff that G. Risen said, and then break down the shortstop position for us.
Yeah, the Astros are going to get ownership in the outfield, but not. I mean, because there's Alvarez, there's Kyle Tucker, there's Brantley, all the lefties that you really want to focus on. They're all in the outfield. So Altuve and Correa, you have to spend up for them. And there's some opportunity cost if you're spending up at pitcher and then shortstop. I mean, there's Tatis, there's Bogarts, there's Bo Bichette. There's good plays at shortstop. And at second base, there's Marcus Semien up top on DraftKings. There's some good value. There's Kiki Hernandez. So Altuve and Correa are definitely going to be overlooked. But when we get in the outfield, the Tuckers, the Alvarezes, Brantleys, they're going to get the ownership. So it's pretty obvious where it's going. If you want to go Altuve, Correa, I mean, I don't mind that at all. You're going to get them lower owned, definitely lower owned than they should be, but that's because of the other opportunity cost. Going to this position, actually, have you guys been keeping track of the Cubs Brewers game? I see people in chat talking about it. Have you guys followed that at all today?
I have followed it. It's going pretty crazy. And JSU, I was talking to him before the show, and he has a game stack, I think, as his core for that. So yeah. He's pretty pumped. I think JSU is going to have a good little early slate for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the Cubs hung up 7 in the first run against the debut for the Brewers pitcher. And then now the Brewers are up by a touchdown, 14-7. I see chat's been talking about it. I mean, Willie Adames just hit a grand slam. If you follow JSU's core in the early slate, you are definitely looking really good. As far as this game, though, or a shortstop, this position, Tatis is definitely my favorite. He's 6.2K. You have to pay for him, but he's my favorite bat on the slate for sure. I mean, he's one of the best hitters in baseball. We love the Padres today. Good hitting weather. On the road, you're guaranteed the 9th inning at bats. Gutierrez isn't very good. It just all sets up for him. If you're not going there, Xander Bogaerts at 5.4K would be my second favorite. And then Bo Bichette at 5.8K. It's just that you have to spend up at this position. It's not a position I want to punt at all. There's way too many big bats that one of these guys is going to homer or double dong. So I'm going to spend up. Tatis is definitely my favorite. He's the cash game guy. Bogarts would be my favorite in tournaments at 5.4K.
Yep, do agree. I think it's a good spend up position today. Let's head on over to the outfield. And G-Rise, before we do that, let's head on over and look at the likes, okay? The people, we got those dislikes, whatever. We don't care about those. We want to obviously get that ratio up. But we got 372 watching. We're at 141, and we can withhold the plays. What's the number we're going to pick, G-Rise? And give me a number here.
I think we could get to 200. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think we make them work, right?
That's almost half. That's a little bit better than half. That's good. I mean, it only takes you a damn second. Go over there and hit the button.
Yeah.
Hey, we thank the people hitting the dislike too. If you're doing something right. If you got haters and trolls, they're all over the place in this world.
Count just as good as the likes.
And yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, they're probably not the sharpest of the bunch, but it's the same thing for the algorithm. They're helping. So hey, we appreciate you guys too.
I mean,
if you're taking time to tune into a show to hit the dislike button, I feel sorry for you, kind of, but we thank you. There's not really any other words.
We all got them contrarian buddies, don't we? Title that, basically you're rooting for the Bucks, and your jackass buddy down the street would be rooting for Atlanta, right? Just to be the asshole in the house, right? I mean,
yep. There's always people like that.
Kinds, man. So hey, it takes all kinds to make the world go around. That's the way I look at it.
For the record, I'm not the jackass buddy rooting against Title's Bucks for the Hawks. I'm the guy that thinks the Hawks are better, Title. So there we go. How's that?
Well, without Giannis, they probably are. With Giannis, I mean, hey, you've been on the Hawks for a while. I wish you slid in to get some action. Actually, right now, I'm glad you didn't, but I was waiting for you to. Hey, you've been right on the Hawks so far. So hopefully they don't do it for you. But yeah, you're not that guy. I know.
Yeah, I told the story. I was being a nit, and then I was price shopping, and then JSU made fun of me. I said, I'm going to take a bad price now, JSU, just so you can stop with this crap and not say I'm not on it. So I got back on it, so that was good.
So you gave him the action, but not me.
No, I didn't give him the action. I was trying to get other lines for people, and I just went to a book. I just said whatever. I just did it right there on the spot on the bet show. It's like I'm not dealing with this. It's going to happen. I just wanted to make sure that JSU couldn't say it anymore. So
fair enough.
Couldn't hear from him for a week and a half. So, but let's move on over. Let's go talk about the outfield. And outfield's pretty loaded today, right? I mean, there's guys on DraftKings. Like, if you look at, I want to spend in a lot of different spots, and like I think there's a lot of good salary savers. But you got like Acuna against the lefty at 6-1, who I don't know if he's going to get his own as he should. And Alvarez at 6K, I don't know if he's going to get his own, because there's a really good group of outfielders in that 4K and 3K range that are just great value plays. And you talked about a little bit, Title, those Astros guys. So touch upon the Astros outfielders and some of the other guys you're targeting.
Yeah, Alvarez, Tucker, Brantley, I all like in the outfield. Alvarez, you got to pay for it, 6K. I mean, if you're going this route, this is where you're going to play the Bailey Obers of the world. And you can go Ohtani, Bailey Ober, then you even have more money off of Nola. So if you're spending up, that's how you're going to do it if you're getting these Astros. Ronald Acuna, like you mentioned, he is going to be not very low owned, but way lower owned than he should be at 6.1K. I definitely like some of the Braves. You can go in Acuna, Riley stack. As far as some of the other options, Jorge Soler, 3.5K. They still haven't done anything with his price. Hunter Dozier, you can play him in the outfield at 3K. That's, two of the best probably value plays on the slate if the game does play. Hunter Renfroe at 3.6K against Minor. We like Boston a lot. He has a lot of power in the 6-hole. You can play Kiki Hernandez in the outfield as well. I prefer him at second base, but it is an option. Kyle Tucker, 4.3K. He's probably my favorite Astros bat when we're taking into price, just because, that's $1,700 savings from Alvarez, and he has tons of power. He's in the 6-hole. I definitely like him a lot. George Springer at 4.6K. That's a way to get some exposure to the Toronto without breaking the bank with Vlad, Simeon, Bichette. Toronto's so expensive. He's the 4.6K. That's too cheap in the top half of the order. Teoscar Hernandez is another one at 4.9K. Grishek, 4.2K. So actually right there, George Springer is my favorite, but you can fully stack this Toronto outfield, 4.9K, 4.2K, 4.6K, 4 through 6 projected in the lineup. And we talk about it. That's how you get different and make a correlated tournament lineup that people just don't fully onslaught the outfield. So I like that a lot in tournaments. Another last guy I'll mention, Bryce Harper at 5.3K. Actually, two guys I'll mention. Bryce Harper at 5.3K. I do like the Phillies a little bit. Real Muto, Gene Segura, Bryce Harper as a nice little 3-man mini stack. 5.3K is a little cheap. And then Trent Grissom at 4.8K in the 5-hole. We like San Diego. It's pretty cheap. Trent Grissom has upside and get to exposure to a good offense. Outfield's completely loaded, but I think I gave you like 10, 11 guys that are all in good spots.
Yep, there's tons of guys to like. Before we get your outfielders, G Rising, I want to talk. We got the podcast, right? That happens over at Run Pure Sports. It's a free podcast that you can check out all over, right? You go to iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, wherever you watch podcasts, you can find our stuff. Just look up Run Pure Sports. You're typically on the First Look Pod. I can't remember what days it is. Are you Thursdays? Are you Tuesdays? Where can they find you?
For Tuesday. Yeah, I'm Monday night for Tuesday generally. So usually we have a big tasty slate. So, big, huge slate with everybody traveling on that day. But yeah, DC's great. To get on in the morning or the night before and talk about the slate and have so much time in between to think about, and then you can kind of, know some spots you might want to dig into and be able to sit there and have some nerd out talking baseball, have some nerd time and talk baseball is something I like to do. So I can't sit around my daughter. Sure the hell ain't going to talk to me about baseball. So yeah, always fun to get on there and talk with DC. If you're missing out, he's so knowledgeable with some of his pitching takes, and just surround yourself with people like that. Usually good things happen.
Yeah, and you get some great info. And I listen, I don't know your daughter G Rising, but I'm sure she does not want to talk spin rates with you, right? DC's the guy to talk spin rates with, right? And of course, right. The substances.
My daughters, they'll come downstairs in my man cave, and then they'll they'll sit on either side of me at like the sectional couch, and then they'll be passing their phones and laughing about TikTok videos and dumb shit and making goofy faces and smiling at the phone doing this. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? You know,
they're probably watching LeBron do some TikToks.
Oh man. So you know what I do? I go out and get my baseball cards and I start pulling them out and I start showing them the baseball cards, talking about them, and within 2 minutes they're upstairs. So it works out well.
I got one more. I got one more outfielder that I didn't mention too. I mean, sorry to interrupt the fun, but Abdul Herrera, 3.4K on Philly. He's batting leadoff today. And that's another stack that a guy you can add to the Philly stack that's pretty affordable. So sorry to interrupt G Ryzen and his.
Listen, I was trying to get a G Ryzen like on a TikTok video somewhere soon, right? We get him go viral, with the blue hair. That would be awesome. But but we'll see. Maybe he can get on a TikTok video and we can just see him out of nowhere, maybe with some Run Pure gear on, right? That would be the good stuff. But let's go over and talk about the outfield and get all the goods from G Ryzen. We want to get your outfielders. We want to know the winners, and we could save it right for maybe the play of the day, but we haven't gotten a home run call of the day. Maybe it's in the outfield, maybe it's not, or maybe we just save it for the plays because we need 18 more of those likes, G Ryzen.
Well, I look at outfield here, and you guys are right. It is definitely loaded, and I think primarily most of the ownership is going to come from a handful of teams in the outfield. I think you're going to have most of the guys come from Toronto, San Diego, or Houston. So, I think you might have people mixing up either one, but, a lot of these projections, all of those guys are popping in all the projections. You're not seeing outfielders from really any other team. So if you do decide to play any of those outfielders from them teams, just know you're probably going to have a lot of friends with you. So, to be a little bit different, it'd be good to throw in, one-offs or two here and there into your stacks. Like we mentioned before, maybe using an entire team outfield instead of mixing it up. 3 guys from the same outfield is another way to get a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, you look up at some of these bats, you got Tommy Pham's in a really good spot for San Diego. If that game goes off, it's, hard not to like the Blue Jays against Justice. I mean, he's terrible. Renfro's in a decent spot. I don't mind him. But like you mentioned, all the lefties from Houston are in a good spot. So like I said, I think the outfield ownership mostly is going to come from them teams. You guys mentioned Acuna. I think you'll literally get Acuna at less than 5% owned today. I just don't think anybody's going to click on his name, especially for 4,500. I do like that as a one-off. You probably even get I think that Toronto lineup just came out. Did it or did it not? No, not yet.
No, I don't think yet.
I was just wanting to see where they were going to pop Springer, because I think 3,800 for Springer. I'm kind of waiting for them to maybe put him up a little higher in the lineup, but they just haven't done it yet. But there's all kinds of guys. We talked a little bit about Joey Gallo. He's been really hot recently. If you want to get away from the teams there that looks like going to garner most of the ownership. But what do you think, Mango? Do you think most of the ownership is going to come from them teams in outfield, or think?
Yeah, it's easy just to kind of be like, oh, I can get my exposure to the Astros that way, right? Kind of like Title said before, and some of those teams that you mentioned, I think that's definitely what you're going to see a lot of people do. So I like to call maybe trying to make some pivots in the outfield, but just you got to make sure you're not playing like if you want to play the Astros stack, right, or you want to get exposure to the Astros. Just playing the two of a Jordan and or a Brantley and a Tucker, a lot of people are going to try and do that. I don't know if you'd agree, Title. It looks like you're shaking your head. Yes. And like we talked about before, if you're going to play Correa over a Fernando Tatis, that's going to be a big thing that can separate you. And of course it's scary to fade a guy like Tatis, but at the same time, it could be the difference that, get you over the finish line or get you a little upgrade at a spot where instead of getting maybe a 6, you get a 24 because some other guy has a big game. So that's something to definitely look at some 2v2s for, Title.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah, I mean, if you're playing the Astros, they're going to be played in the outfield. So you play the Altuves, you play the Correas. And then, like I mentioned, there's full onslaught outfields. You can go with Philly. They have a couple good outfielders in Herrera and Harper. We mentioned Toronto, the Gricheks, Hernandez, Springers. If you want to go Houston and stack Tucker, Alvarez, and Brantley, then I would play. I'd make a priority to play Altuve and Correa because people aren't going to do that. And then you got to go down to the Bailey Obers of the world and stuff like that. So just making sure your lineup's correlated. And you can play a couple of chalky guys or higher owned guys, just make sure you differentiate at other places that still makes your lineup correlated and stuff. So that's my take on it. I think you're very similar.
Of course. G Ryzen, final thoughts on the outfield. Anything else you want to touch on, or you want to move on and start talking about stacks and the plays and all that other stuff?
Well, I'd rather us just get the 20 dislikes. Can we do that? We got 18. Let's get it there.
Yeah, may as well just get it, but don't get like 21, right? Whoever the two are, if you hit it then and it's over, then we don't want that, right? But let's get those likes too to get to 200 so we can give out those plays. G Ryzen's been on absolute fire with the home run calls. Before we get to the stacks and the plays, I do want to mention our friends over at Super Draft. We have everything that you guys need to help you guys out. Get those winners over at Super Draft. It's a site that not as many people play, and there's no salary caps, right? So you can just play Big T's core. Go over to the core plays, play his core plays, and get a really big leg up on the field. Because I'm telling you, no one is doing that, right? So head on over to Super Draft. First of all, you got to sign up at Run Pure Sports. Then after you sign up and use the code RPSHeater25 to get 25% off, then you head over to Super Draft. You put a little deposit bonus in. You get a bonus up to $100 for the code Run Pure. And you enter all those contests and you get those winners. And check out the core plays before you do it. Check out the cash chart. You can mix and match those guys all throughout your lineups and make some really great teams. And just make sure they're correlated, right? That's super important. But that's it for that. Let's move on and talk about the stacks. Titletown, I'll go over to you first. Give me your stacks today.
Yeah, I mean, the clear obvious ones, Toronto and Houston are the two favorites, and then Boston's my third favorite. But if we're not going to talk about the three most popular, San Diego's up there too. I mean, so I'll rank the chalk ones, and I'm going to go a little under-owned ones. Toronto 1, Houston 2, Padres 3, Boston 4, I'll say. And that's not being contrarian or that's obviously popular. Two other stacks I like that aren't going to get as much ownership. I'll say 3. I like Philadelphia or the Phillies. I like the Phillies today. I like the Braves. And then I like the Royals. They have very good price tags. It's hard to ignore them. So assuming all weather is good and all the hitting spots are good, my 3 favorite lower ones are Philadelphia, the Braves, and the Royals.
All right. Taylor's got Philadelphia, Braves, Royals for the lower ones. What do you got, G Rising? Give me your top stacks here.
Yeah, I think Toronto, San Diego, and Houston, like you guys mentioned, are gonna garner most of the ownership. I think those are gonna be the 3 chalkier stacks. For me, you can look around, but I'm probably gonna stick within some of them range and try to make myself a little bit different in other ways. One other stack that Title mentioned, I do like the Royals though against Boston. You just look at that lineup; they got quite a bit of righties up and down. Perez doesn't really scare me. That bullpen park, decent park, but obviously we got to have to watch the weather there. Whit Merrifield's been on fire. Perez and Santana. You got Dozier. O'Hearn's really the only lefty that they're going to have to deal with, and you could even play a guy like Michael Taylor hit a home run the other day. But so I don't mind the Royals at all. I do like that. That might be a stack I might throw in with some of these higher owned stacks, but. I mean, Houston's hard to ignore. I mean, they're such a good hitting team, and Matt Harvey does not belong anywhere on a baseball field except if he was playing softball. So I can't even understand why he's still pitching. But so I do really like the Astros. I just think I just don't see how they don't put up 7-8 runs today. So actually, I think I'm going to have Astros 1 and then mix in the other ones, and I'm going to keep an eye on that weather and see how much of the Royals I'm going to have.
All right. I'll say this. So there's 4 teams with above 6 total. I think the Astros and the Padres are my 2 favorites, but obviously those are all chalk ones. I'll give you one that is not of those 4 that I like. I like the Phillies one a little bit. I think Jordan Holloway is not that great anyways. And I think that hitting weather is a really great environment, and it's not the most sexy lineup, right? When you look up and down, it's like Herrera, Segura, Realmuto, Harper, McCutchen, Bohm, Miller, Matten. Like, this is not a sexy team, but in those smaller GPPs, or the bigger GPPs with the smaller, entry fee, like the $5, the $4, the $15, just think they're a team that could go under own and maybe be the team that gets on the winner. So I think they're a really interesting low owned stack on this slate, but I think we got the likes, G Ryzen. So we also got your perfect number of dislikes. So let's keep that there. Like the people said. So we got to get the plays of the day. G Ryzen, we'll go to you first. Give us it. What do we got? Who is the home run call of the day?
So for me, my home run call of the day, I didn't want to try to use too many chalky guys or teams here, but I'm just going to stick with Semien. I think Semien's in a great spot at leadoff for Toronto. I mean, obviously, we're going to want to make sure he's in there, which obviously pretty sure he will be. But I like Marcus Semien today against Justice Sheffield. I just think he's just not ready yet for the majors, and I just think they're going to turn that lineup over several times today. And that stadium they're playing up in Buffalo obviously yields homers, and I think Semien could even possibly. Last time I had Semien as my home run call of the day, I said he's going to lead off the game with a homer, and he came through for me. So you know what? I'm going to say that again today. So I think he's going to have a leadoff bomb, and we're going to get an early home run for him, and we're going to be off to the races. Let's see here. About 7:15, he should have a homer on the board for us.
All right, you love to see it. I'll give you my play, and I'm going back to the well on the same guy that I had yesterday. I'm going with Trent Grisham. Hopefully that Padres game plays. He was okay yesterday. I mean, 9.5 wasn't the end of the world, wasn't the best, but hopefully he can get this one home for me today. I think he's a good guy to make sure to put on your Padres stacks. Titletown, we'll go over to you. Give us your play of the day.
I was debating between a couple guys, but you gave Trent Grisham, and one of my guys fits very good and correlates with it. And Will Myers in the 6-hole, get a nice little 5-6 mini stack, 3.9K for Will Myers. We love San Diego. He's going to hit one out tonight. Then you can throw in Tommy Pham if you want, and then just onslaught your outfield in San Diego. So give me Will Myers, 3.9K, doesn't break the bank, and he's going to homer today.
Yeah, and with the outfield being so loaded, Titletown, right? Like people sometimes are like, I'll just do 2 Padres so I can play that one outfielder that I really want to play. And like, I love playing all the outfielders for my team at times because guys are just they're too scared to do it, right? They want to get exposure to that one-off home run. So that's something that I definitely look to do at times. But that'll basically wrap it up for us. Before we get out of here, G Rising, give us your final thoughts here on this slate.
Yeah, just pay attention to the weather. I think that's going to be one of the biggest narratives, obviously, with this slate today is the weather. So pay attention. It looks like a couple of the games may have lightened up a little bit, but that KC-Boston game, San Diego-Cincinnati, few weather scares. So just keep your ear to the ground. Make sure you're following. You can get in our Discord, and you'll get some good information as quick as anybody can hear it. It's a great place to make sure that you're on point before your lineup locks, but nothing more frustrating than even yesterday I lost out in a couple lineups because of them stinking Indians. But hey, that's the way DFS works. But yeah, just make sure you watch the weather today, or get in our Discord and so you can pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah, watch that weather. Get in our Discord. Use that code RPSHeater25 to get 25% off so you can get in the Discord chat and participate there. Awesome stuff going on. Also, we got a Showdown, right? Showdown content over here at Run Pure Sports. We also have a Showdown show, right? I mean, it's not at 11 like we talked about doing. They're doing it on the premium show. So 6 o'clock premium, Big T, JSU, Holden. They'll be breaking down the MLB stuff. And then right after that, head on over, get the NBA Showdown takes. They broke down everything yesterday, talking about Trae Young and the injury, and then they talked about how they like Lou Williams, and they really broke down the process, and they're going to be doing that for you guys over here. Again, RPS Heater 25 gets you 25% off. You can check out all that Showdown stuff, and it's a premium show that is worth watching to help you guys build out your lineups. But that'll wrap it up for us, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us here on the MLB Swing for the Fences show. We'll see you at 6 o'clock on the final countdown show. But for me, Mangone, G Rising, and Title, see you later.
Good luck, everybody.